there makers, it is Jo here from Minerva, and today I've got a learn to sew video for you. Today we're going to take a look at how to make a thumb cuff. You can add a thumb cuff to lots of your existing patterns. It's a great hack if you want to make sure that your sweatshirt comes through the sleeves of your coat. It's great for keeping warm at home if you do a job that's sitting still, maybe where you clicking away and your hands get cold. It just gives a little bit of an extra layer and it looks really cool too. Today I'm going to be making the Billy sweatshirt. I'm just going to make the basic sweatshirt so that I get a base to add the thumb cuffs to. I'll show you the dimensions for cutting a thumb cuff so you can add it to any pattern. The fabric that I'm using today is a recycled fleece back sweatshirt fabric. So it's a stretch knit, a little bit on the straight grain, but you need to make sure that you cut going across the widthwise grain to get the stretch. It's got a really autumn palette of a sort of winey rust, a tomatoey red, a mustard, green and grey. And it's predominantly got a black background. That little mottle feature is in black. On the reverse, it's fleecy, so it's ideal for sweatshirting. Okay, let's take a look at how to cut out a thumb cuff. First of all, you need to start with your sleeve opening, so measure that. Mine's just over 14 centimetres, but I'll need to make my cuff a little bit smaller. I'm going to mark out the dimensions on a piece of paper so that you can see it easily, but this is what we're trying to achieve. So we need the distance from here to where we want our cuff to finish. We need this little bit here and the cuff opening. My cuff opening was 14 centimetres, but I want it to be a little bit smaller because I want it to be snug. If I make it 14 centimetres here, it will be too big here. So I've taken a couple of centimetres off. Here is 13 centimetres. That's 12 for my cuff and 1 centimetre seam allowance. The same on this side. The overall length is 30 centimetres because I want 15 from there to there and a little bit of seam allowance. On the side I've got 8 centimetres, that's this bit. I've got my thumb opening, that's 6 centimetres, and then I've got the little join in between, that's 2 centimetres. The other side of the cuff and the reverse inside of the cuff. You can change any of these dimensions, so you can make the cuff opening bigger here. You can have a longer return here if you want it to go up and cover more of your knuckles, so you can adjust this. You could change this bit depending on where your top finishes, so you can try your top on without the cuff, see where it lands, and then get a measurement from the end to wherever you want your cuff to land. So all these are just an approximate guide, and it's just to give you an idea of how to get started. This distance here will very much depend on the fabric that you've got. My fabric isn't overly stretchy, but if you use a rib or a ribbing fabric or a cuffing, then those will be quite stretchy, so you'll get a little bit more stretch recovery between here. You might even want to try just one cuff in your fabric remnants and just try it over your hand before you attach it and cut out the rest of your garment. Once you cut out, you're then going to apply it to your sleeve. You'll have the thumb cuff will be a little bit smaller than the opening for the sleeve, so you'll need to ease that in, and quartering it with pins will really help. So find the halfway points, then find the quarter-way points in your thumb cuff and pin them. Do the same for your sleeve and then match up the pins and stretch the fabric in between. Try not to stretch the sleeve, only the cuff. If you stretch the sleeve, you'll get a wavy, wobbly hem. Next, you're going to pin and you're going to sew the 8 centimetre bit, the 2 centimetre bit and the 8 centimetre bit. You're going to leave these two 6 centimetre pieces open, and I've indicated that to myself by having pins here, here and here. I'm on a zigzag stitch, but it's very narrow on 0.5, so it will just look like a wobbly straight stitch. And I'm on stitch length 2.5, but I could go up to 3. It depends what fabric you've got. If you've got a rib fabric and you've got more stretch recovery than this sweatshirting, then you could choose to go up here, or you could use a Mariflex thread and a straight stitch. The key is to make this bit have some stretch and give. If these bits don't have some stretch and give, then when you push your hand through, you'll start popping the stitching. So you should have this, and now you can press the seam open, and this will help you to get a flatter edge. You can see here are the thumb holes. Next, you take your cuff and fold it in half over that middle section. That's the 2 centimetre section. Turn it inside out. And at this point, you can try it on for size. You want it to be comfortable. You want to have a little bit of room in here. You don't want it to be too tight. This bit might be a smaller circumference than your actual sweatshirt, but we will stretch and ease it into place. Next bit's tricky to show because it's going to be on the inside, but we need to stop these seam allowances from flapping back out of the thumb hole. So we're going to line everything up and then put our hands inside between the 2 layers, so on the wrong side of the fabric, and pinch those seam allowances together. We're going to pin these. You might need to roll out a little bit more of the cuff because we can roll it back in a minute, but it's just to make sure that we've got the correct seam allowances together. Need to move away any of the other fabric. I have caught that one in the pin. And we're going to sew these seam allowances together. You'll notice this seam allowance is a little bit shorter than the original one. That just stops you from catching any of the fabric from behind. And then when you turn it back out, the thumb opening has a seam to stop the seam allowances rolling. And you're going to do the same with the other side. I'll just show you that tricky bit that's invisible really for you to see. So you're going to put your hand into the cuff so that the front and the back of your hand is touching the wrong sides of the fabric, and you'll pinch those seam allowances together. The pinch just makes sure that you're getting the right side of each thumb cuff matching its partner. At the end of the thumb openings, you can put a bar tack just to give it strength so that none of these stitches pop here. I've got zigzag stitch, stitch width 5 and stitch length 0.9 so that it doesn't travel along too fast. It puts lots of stitches close together. Now this is all enclosed and it's ready to put onto the sweatshirt. Okay, let's look at the positioning of the thumb cuff. So this is the front of my sweatshirt, but I don't want the thumb to be on the seam because it will feel twisted around. So I would like my thumb to be about halfway along the front of my sleeve. The seam, centre seam, is along the centre of your arm, so you need your thumb to be about halfway. Slip your cuff over your sleeve and then look for that halfway mark that you made. That is where the thumb cuff needs to go. So that's where the join in your fabrics needs to line up. So here I'd like that to be the angle of the thumb hole, and behind are the seam allowances, and those have been opened out flat. Once you've distributed the ease in the sleeve into the cuff, you can now sew this in place. It's easier to sew it from the inside so that you can keep turning the circle. You can zigzag or overlock the edges together and then turn it through. Okay, here is the Billy sweatshirt finished. It has a set-in sleeve rather than a raglan or a drop shoulder, so it's quite a fitted style. It really suits having a fitted slim cuff. This is the thumb detail. You could obviously take this up higher like I showed you in the drafting part. I've got a little bit of the Billy balloon sleeve there coming down to the cuff. You can turn it back. You're obviously going to have that opening there, but it's still wearable as a regular cuff. I use my Primo machine to add some stitching detail here, so I've got some around the neck, some around the cuff that you might have seen while I was attaching the cuff detail, and I have a repeat of that around the hemband. This fabric is a Minerva exclusive called Motley Mosaic. It's a really lovely design, and it's on a fleece back sweatshirt fabric, and it's print on demand, so you can have this print on any base cloth. Thank you very much for watching today. I hope that's helped you. You can use the same fabric as your sweatshirt, or you could use a ribbing fabric, so that's got fine ribs on and it's really stretchy. You'll get a little bit more stretch recovery with that. You can do it in cotton jersey if you've got a long sleeve base layer that you want to put under something else. So you'll need a fabric that has stretch to go around your wrist and enable you to get your top on and off, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the same fabric as your outer garment. We would love to see anything that you've been making, so do head over to Minerva and make a free profile there. You can share your makes, you can add a photograph, a description, show us what fabrics and patterns you've been pairing, and it's a real inspiration to our other Minerva makers, and you'll get lots of inspiration from others too. You can join us again here on our YouTube channel for free also. If you subscribe, you'll get access to daily feeds of all of our video content. We've got sew-alongs, learn to sew videos, pattern drafting series, lingerie series, how to use your overlocker, fabrics and pattern pairing. There is so much for you to get your teeth stuck into. You can also join the craft club over at Minerva, where you receive discounts and offers throughout the year. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.